and so forth. So social media is super, super important. But when it comes to sales, I think a lot of entrepreneurs go there, promote their products and services, don't get any bites, and think that social media doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And it does.
Agree.
You just have to look at the big picture.
I totally agree with that. This is a platform to just get that visibility to get started. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, when I meet entrepreneurs, they get really frustrated. They're like, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Pinterest, just like they told me, but I'm not getting any results. Well, first of all, what results did you want?
Mm-hmm.
And then once we look at what they were doing, all they're doing is selling, and that's
You're breaking up.
Breaking up a little bit there.
Oh,
there. Okay,
there
now I
you're
can
back.
hear you. Okay. So
let me see about moving to a different spot.
from one coast to the other, right?
Well, it's okay. So when there are technical difficulties, I always just take a moment and think about how amazing it is that we can even talk to each other right now.
Yes. I think so too. Yeah, definitely. So as you said, they really need to get more focused on what they really want to have, what they expected to have happen on social media.
And to have reasonable expectations as well. And
I
that's,
like that.
again,
Reasonable.
a matter of education.
Yeah, reasonable expectations. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to then the viewers that you've been found. The viewers now, you want to turn them into followers. What's that step?
To know you and like you and trust you. That's when you're repeatedly giving them valuable content. You're showcasing who you are, what your values are, what you bring to the table, what makes you special, and how you can serve them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I consider people to be followers. So there are lots of, going back to social media as maybe the step one for some entrepreneurs. We've stumbled upon a lot of different social media channels throughout our days of, scrolling through Facebook, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're followers just because we saw those pages. We're viewers. We become followers when, of course, we like or follow the page, but also when our minds have opened up to consuming this content and we're kind of curious. We're like, oh, who is this person? And then, of course, there are different stages of being a follower, too. You could just be someone who's curious or someone who's a raving fan. Now, I wouldn't say raving fans are necessarily in the third stage because you can have raving fans and not make a single dollar off of them. Mm-hmm. But they're still very beneficial. They're still singing your praises because they love you. Mm-hmm. But that's who I would say a follower is somebody who has opted to listen to you and is curious and open to hearing from you.
That's a very good explanation of those followers, because I do hear a lot from individuals. I have all these fans, all these followers, but I'm not getting any sales. So what do I do with them? Like when I see a viewer on my page, how do I capture all this? So that's where you have to really have that formula or that strategy in starting to turn those individuals into customers, which is that third stage.
And I would actually like to address that comment, too, which is I have all these followers, but they're not turning into clients. Well, first, let's look at the followers. Are they your ideal client?
Very good point.
Yeah. So are they even your ideal client? Like my first few followers, like my first 10, 20 on my Facebook page were my friends and family. My mom and dad are my biggest fans, but they're not my ideal clients. My dad's a civil engineer. My mom's an office administrator. They're not exactly entrepreneurs.
Love it. But, yes, I understand that too.
So if you're seeing you have a huge following and nobody's biting, look first of all and see who are they, and then look at your message and see if it's even resonating with them too. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, my ideal client, my target audience, is actually older entrepreneurs. So they're like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Of course, I work with people who are younger and older. But the way that I would speak to somebody who's my age, a millennial, is completely different than how I would speak to a female entrepreneur in her 50s with kids in college. So I need to make sure that because she's my target market, I can't talk to her like I would talk to myself. Mm-hmm. So first I need to make sure that she's one of my followers, and then also I'm speaking her language, speaking to her pain.
That's, again, some very good points there. You have to know who your audience is and making sure that you're attracting more of those ideal potential clients to you so that your marketing message will resonate with the right people.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. It's the classic quality over quantity.
Yes.
For our audience here, would you give us one or two or three pain questions where you're trying to bring their pain out? How would you ask a question along those lines?
Discover what their pain is, you mean?
Correct.
In regards to, that's a good question. Well, every business is very different in how you would do that discovery, and a lot of times it turns into a conversation. So I would definitely recommend making it a conversation if you can versus a survey. But if it's a survey, the question would be, or some questions could be like, okay, let's pick a business. So let's say you're a health coach and you focus on weight loss. So you say, what is the biggest reason why you want to lose weight? Then that'll kind of get them thinking into, well, you know, I want to feel better. I want to be able to move and be able to pick up my granddaughter. You can ask them, well, how does that make you feel? Furthermore, then you can say, well, what is it that you've done so far to do that? What has worked? What hasn't worked? What's frustrating you? You can just ask them straight, point blank, what their pain is. However, there are some pains that they know to be true inside but won't tell you. And then there are some pains that you know are true but they don't know. So they could, so pain that they know to be true but may not tell you is that pizza is just too delicious. And I don't want to stop eating pizza. And let me tell you that's a pain I will tell you. Well,
hey,
but that could be something that they're embarrassed. That could be something that they're embarrassed to admit, but it's a pain. It's that I'm kind of addicted. Or no, it's not that they're addicted to their food at that point. It's that I really like this and I don't want to stop. Yeah. But then the pain that they're not telling you is that they're emotionally addicted to it, and it's very difficult, and they're lost and confused about how to break out of that habit. You know, so that might be a pain or something that they're struggling with. So once you kind of discover that that's something that's holding them back, it's kind of a mental addiction, then you start speaking to that, and you start educating them and kind of bringing that to light. Not saying it outright, but kind of speaking to that pain, and they'll feel it in their hearts. They're like, you know what, this is kind of resonating with me.
So let me focus that in just a little bit more. When you're evaluating a prospect's or a client's social media, or you're reading their web page, how do you go about telling them without hurting them, so to speak? You know, could you just focus the point that you just went through?
In other words, to help them understand that they need to change up their message so that the ideal client they're searching for or want to attract can really resonate with their message.
So how do I evaluate whether or not their message is effective, or how do I tell them that their message could be tweaked?
How do you tell them?
Well, usually when we've gotten into a conversation already, they know that something is wrong and can be improved. So we'll start by, of course, telling them everything I like about them. Because there usually
I love
is a
that.
lot.
Yes, always give the positive. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm not just making it up either. Like we won't even get into that conversation if we don't connect with each other.
I love
but
that.
it'll start with, I think you are really serving your world in an amazing way. I'm so excited that you've even gotten this far. And most of the time, they haven't worked with anyone before because they're just starting out. So I love that you took your website into your own hands, or you started Facebook. And even if you were posting without a real strategy, and you might have been spending way more time than you needed to, now you have all of this data that we can look at. So this is the beginning of a new chapter. It's the beginning of a beautiful thing. So if I may make some suggestions, and then I go into what it is. So it actually really depends on the nature of our conversation.
That's perfect, Tara. Tara, it's like because now that you've captured their interest, that they know you can definitely assist them in turning those followers into potential customers because you've addressed what you are seeing and why they're not turning them in. That then brings you to that next step to help them put together the strategy. And most likely with online marketing, for being successful, there has to be some type of, again, an automation set up so that they can reach more people. So
Yes.
I guess share with our audience today some ways that one can automate their online marketing to tap into all of those that need their services.
Yes, yes. So that goes back to the very beginning, which was how can they spend less time? And yes, quite literally, it's automating. And we're chief everything officers. So if we can automate as much as we can, then we're able to do so much more. And, there are all these tools, these technological tools that we can use. Why shouldn't we? So what I really like doing is, of course, scheduling social media posts in advance. So think about, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Todd Herman who said that it takes, every time we switch between tasks, it takes about 20 seconds for our brains to adjust. Mm-hmm. So if we were to post, like literally go out and post our social media posts every single day, like live, we are spending a lot more time than if we scheduled out all of those posts within the span of a couple of hours on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. Because we have to constantly be switching our minds back and forth between activities. So this is the psychology going into it now. Then think about all the time that you're spending stopping what you're doing, getting to your computer, typing all that out, thinking a little bit about, okay, get in the zone, then you're done, then you go back to what you were doing before. So I say set a time for yourself every week and schedule out those posts. There are lots of tools. I really like Hootsuite because, one, it's free for the first 3 social media profiles, and then it's paid after that. But it's very easy to use once you get started. So what you can do with Hootsuite as well is not only schedule your posts on multiple channels in one place, but you can also see your feeds and you can see your messages and you can send out messages. So you're not even clicking between tabs anymore.
Exactly. It's a perfect
yeah,
dashboard
it's all
for
about
you.
Excuse me?
It's a perfect dashboard for you to just, again, save time and not having to log into all these sites. You can see everything in one area.
Exactly. So that's my favorite thing to automate. I also, it's a lot of it is actually bulk work. So write your blog post and your email newsletter in one sitting and then schedule it out to go in advance. There are all these amazing scheduling tools. You can schedule your post on WordPress. You can schedule your emails to go out on MailChimp or Constant Contact, whatever it is you're using. Mm-hmm. So that's truly what I recommend with automating. Something else that I got really excited about when I found out about it was, have you heard of Zapier or If This Then That?
I've heard of This Then That, but I haven't heard of the other one.
Okay. So they are online apps where you can connect two different apps together and set a trigger. So, for example, I can say, if I add a new contact to my CRM, I want you to start an email draft for me. So what I did that with Zapier. That's Z as in Zulu, A, P as in Paul, I, E as in Echo, R as in Romeo.com. Okay. I do this when I'm networking, so I have a few zaps. I scan the business card that I get. It goes into a certain program. Then Zapier recognizes that I put in a new card. It creates a contact for me in my CRM. Then it realizes there was a contact created in my CRM, and it starts a new email draft in Gmail that says, hey, it was so nice to meet you, and then it just sits there until I come in and I actually customize it to, the person I'm sending it to. I remember the first few times I went to networking events and I didn't have this. It took me an hour every single time to input all this information. And after setting up a few